JFK, probably think of him when he looked like this. Maybe as President Kennedy, maybe some of the things that he did while he was in office. He established the Peace Corps. The missile crisis was during his presidency. He had a big part of the moonshot program as well. A lot of people also think of his family, his wife Jackie and their two children, John Jr. and Caroline. And a lot of people, of course, remember his tragic assassination. But here in this house, on this tour, this is actually not the version of JFK that we talk about, focus on, because this is what he looked like when he lived in this home. So this is baby JFK. He's around 6 months old in this photo. His family called him Jack, so that's how I will also refer to him throughout the tour. He was born in this house May 29th, 1917, and he was the second of what would eventually be 9 Kennedy children. So he had a very large family. And here we have two very important influences on young Jack's life. These are his parents, Joseph Patrick Kennedy Sr. and Rose Elizabeth Fitzgerald. They're pictured here on their wedding day in 1914. They both came from really similar backgrounds. They were both Irish Catholic and also both came from really prominent Massachusetts political families. Joseph was the son of P.J. Kennedy, who was a Massachusetts state senator, and Rose was the eldest daughter of John Honey Fitzgerald, who was a 2-term mayor of Boston. And so when they were married, they had a lot of connections in downtown Boston, but they decided they were going to start their lives together in a quieter and more removed suburb. So that is Brookline, more specifically Coolidge Corner, which is the neighborhood that we're standing in today. So Mr. Kennedy purchased this house for around $6,500, and then they moved in shortly after their honeymoon. And then shortly after that, their first son was born. So here we have Joseph Patrick Kennedy Jr. He is their oldest son, and he is standing with his younger brother Jack. They're around 5 and 3 years old respectively, and this photo was actually taken Easter Sunday around 1920. And I don't know, it's a little bit hard to tell now, but this was actually taken in the front corner of this yard while they're facing in this direction. So you see the street has changed a little bit over time. There are actually these large empty lots where the children would play, where this red house is now. This was the last house on this side of the street, and that's something that Mrs. Kennedy really liked, is that there was a lot of room for her children to play near the home. And I don't know if anyone can tell, but Jack actually does not look very happy in this photo. Would anyone maybe like to take a guess as to why that might be? His outfit? Maybe he didn't like his outfit. He actually had a famous dislike of hats throughout his entire life. That is not the only reason though. Anyone else?
Did he wet his panties?
Maybe. I guess we can't really know that for sure. Anyone else? He is giving us a little hint with his finger. He's pointing at somebody. Yes, so they are supposed to be nicely holding hands for the photo, but Joe Jr. is actually squeezing his hand a little bit too hard in this picture. And so this is, pretty indicative of their relationship. They were really close and a really loving family, but they were also intensely competitive, and that was something that was really encouraged within the Kennedy family, was that sense of competition. Bless you. And it was especially fierce between the two eldest brothers. Joe Jr. is actually what we would call the Kennedy golden child. Definitely his parents' favorite, and he was really the one who most people expected would one day go into politics and one day run for president. It was not meant to be Jack at first. Unfortunately, Joe Jr. did lose his life at the age of 29 while he was serving in World War II, and so after his older brother's death, then these kind of heavy Kennedy family expectations then fell onto Jack's shoulders because he was now the eldest brother. But after him came 2 younger sisters, Rosemary and Kathleen, who were also born in this house. And then around 1920, their family is continuing to grow, and by that time, Mr. Kennedy had already made his first $1 million. So they decided they needed to move into a larger home. And that is this home right here, 51 Abbotsford Road. This is very close by, only about 3 blocks away from here in that direction, so they did stay in the neighborhood. They would live here from 1920 until 1927 and have their next 3 children in this house. And then after this, they would move out of Brookline to just outside of New York City, and they would never live in this area again. So a lot of people wonder, how does this house become a National Historic Site in JFK's name if he only spent the first 3.5 years of his life here? You might have noticed in the front yard of the home, there's a stone plaque. And that was actually placed here when the home was still privately owned. Shortly after President Kennedy was inaugurated, the town of Brookline actually approached the woman who was living here and asked her if they could put that plaque in her front yard to commemorate that this was now the birthplace of a president, and something she allows them, and then she starts to get a lot of people knocking on her front door. People being really interested in seeing the room where the president was born. And then on November 25th, 1963, which was 3 days after JFK was assassinated in Dallas, Texas, this is what this street looks like. So, thousands of people came to gather on this street in front of this house to mourn his assassination. His mother especially saw this and realized that this house was very important. And so in 1966, the Kennedy family repurchased the home. And then Mrs. Kennedy worked for around 2 years to restore it to what she remembered it looking like when her family was living here. So here we have Mrs. Kennedy, May 29th, 1969, the dedication day of the site. Also would have been President Kennedy's 52nd birthday, where she is symbolically handing the deed of the home over to the American people. And this is when, in practice, she hands the home over to the National Park Service, and we have been taking care of it ever since. Does anyone have any questions before we head in the house?
Is the other house national? The other house, is that privately owned? Is that?
It is still privately owned. So somebody lives in it currently. You're more than welcome to walk by and take photos. There is actually a map to it in our brochure if you are interested, along with some other sites in the neighborhood that were important to the family. But yeah, we do ask that you don't knock on the door. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna head inside the house now. And just a quick safety message before we go in. We just ask that you don't touch anything inside the home, including the walls and wallpaper. And photos are totally fine, but we just ask you don't use flash and you don't take video. All right, thank you. Head inside the house now. Again, my name is Johanna. If you have any questions at all during the tour, please feel free to ask. Those are actually for you to keep, but thank you. All right.
So I'm not allowed.